The day the judge sent me to prison, I thought my life was over. Mr. Wells, the jury finds you guilty of embezzlement and document falsification. The sentence is 5 years in prison without bail. The gavel hit like a gunshot. My daughter's soft sobs echoed behind me. The guards moved closer. The judge's voice firm, controlled, finished reading my fate. But what destroyed me wasn't just the sentence. It was her voice. Because I was almost sure I'd heard it before. 3 weeks earlier, on a dark highway, in the middle of a storm. Before I tell you how helping a stranger in the rain turned into my salvation later. Tap like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, have you ever been punished for doing the right thing? All right, let me take you back. My name is Jerome Wells, 34 years old, State University trained accountant. At that time, I was working 3 jobs just to keep my daughter fed.
Why?
Because I did what they say you're supposed to do. I reported my boss for stealing. His name is Richard Blackstone, owner of a big construction company. The type people call a pillar of the community. Behind the scenes, he was stealing millions from public projects. Schools, clinics, low-income housing. I found the numbers. I did my job. I reported it. He destroyed me for it. But that night, I wasn't thinking of him. I was thinking of getting home, collapsing into bed for 3 hours and pretending my life wasn't falling apart. Rain smashed against my windshield as I drove my 2008 Corolla down Highway 15. That's when I saw it. Hazard lights blinking on the shoulder. A black BMW. A woman standing next to it in the pouring rain, phone held up, searching for signal. I slowed down. Every survival lesson I'd ever been taught screamed in my head. Jerome, a black man stopping for a white woman on a dark road at 2 a.m.? That's how your name ends up on the news for the wrong reason. My father's voice, son, this world won't always see who you are. It will see what it's afraid of. But then my mother's voice, character isn't what you do when it's easy, Jerome. It's what you do when it could cost you. I pulled over. I rolled down my window, keeping my hands visible. Ma'am, do you need help? I yelled over the rain. She turned. First, I saw fear. That flinch I know too well. The reflex that says danger before the brain has time to think. Then she saw my security uniform. Saw I wasn't moving toward her. Saw that I stayed by my car, hands where she could see them. Her shoulders dropped just a little. My car just died, she shouted, and my phone has no signal. Can I take a look at the engine? I'll keep my distance. She hesitated, studying me like she was reading a file. Something in my tone, maybe, or in my eyes. Whatever it was, she nodded. Please. 15 minutes later, I had the hood up, my uniform soaked through, my fingers numb from cold. Loose battery cable. Probably from a pothole. There, try it now, I said. The engine roared back to life. Her shoulders dropped in relief. Oh my God, thank you. How much do I owe you? Nothing, ma'am, I said, already backing away. Just glad I could help. I was halfway to my car when she called out. Wait, your name, at least tell me your name. I turned in the rain. Jerome Wells. She smiled, warm, grateful, relaxed now that her car was alive again. Thank you, Jerome Wells. You may have just saved my night. I smiled back. If only you knew, I thought. You might have saved more than that. Then I drove home, thinking I'd never see her again. I was wrong. 3 weeks later, I was standing in court with handcuffs on, listening to a judge decide my future. The charge? Embezzlement and document falsification. The real criminal? Sitting in the audience, watching like it was a show. Richard Blackstone. When my boss realized I'd uncovered his $2.3 million fraud, he didn't fire me. He did something smarter. He made me the thief. He changed digital records, forged signatures, planted evidence. Then he played the role of the betrayed employer. Jerome was always overly interested in the finances, he told the jury, voice full of fake sadness. I gave him a chance, someone from a humble background, but some people just can't resist temptation. The jury looked at him like he was a saint. They looked at me like I was exactly what the stereotype had always told them I was. When the judge read the verdict, something in her voice made my stomach twist. That steady tone, that cadence, I pushed the thought away. Even if it was her, why would it matter? The gavel fell. My life shattered. Everything after that felt like slow-motion wreckage. Week 1, my security job fired me. We can't keep a convicted criminal on staff, the manager said without looking at me. Week 2, eviction notice. Nothing personal, the landlord said, but this building has a reputation. I moved my 8-year-old daughter, Amelia, into a small room in Dona Esperanza's house. My little girl, who used to have her own room, her favorite posters, her small bed full of stuffed animals, now slept in a corner surrounded by boxes. One night she asked, "Daddy, are people being mean to you at work? Is that why you're sad?" I hugged her, careful not to let my voice crack. "Sometimes, sweetie, good people go through hard things, but that doesn't make them bad. How do you explain to a child that the justice system failed, that her dad went to college, graduated top of his class, did everything right, and still got crushed because a rich white man needed a convenient scapegoat? Meanwhile, Richard bought a beach house. A friend called me in secret. Richard even sent me a text. I hope you've learned not to stick your nose where it doesn't belong. Some lessons are expensive. RB." I saved the message. Didn't know why yet, but something in me refused to delete it. Here's what Richard didn't know about me. Yes, I'm an accountant. Yes, I'm black. Yes, I grew up on the poor side of town. But I also grew up with a father who told me, a black man in a position of responsibility needs to document everything twice, because one day someone will try to say you did wrong. So I did. Backups, external drives, screenshots, saved emails, stuff my coworkers joked about. Jerome, you paranoid or what? Maybe I was. That paranoia saved my life. 3 months after my conviction, I was delivering pizza to survive. My salary, barely enough for rent and food at Dona Esperanza's. One night, coming back from a delivery, I drove past Blackstone Construction. Lights were on upstairs. Richard was still working. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. On impulse, I parked. I pulled out my phone and called the office line. He answered. Blackstone. It's me, I said. Silence. Then a soft, amused laugh. Well, Jerome Wells, the man who doesn't know when to quit. How's that career move to pizza delivery going? One day, Richard, you're going to pay for everything you did. And there it is, he said. A convicted thief threatening his former boss. Maybe I should record this. He hung up. I sat in that old car in the dark, not shaking with rage. Calm, cold, focused. You picked the wrong man to frame, I thought, because I wasn't broken. I was building. Back at my tiny room after putting Amelia to bed, I pulled out everything I had. Old backups, USB drives, saved files I shouldn't even still have. I worked on the floor, papers all around me. Dad, are you fixing that broken computer again? Amelia asked. No, baby, I'm working on a very important puzzle. And it was. Every file, every spreadsheet, every contract. Slowly a picture formed. Not $2.3 million, $16 million. Stolen over 8 years from schools, hospitals, daycare centers. Low-income housing projects. Every dollar that should have built hope went into offshore accounts and luxury properties. I realized something else. I didn't just have some evidence. I had a roadmap to a criminal empire. But I needed help. Not a regular lawyer. I couldn't afford one good enough to go against Richard's army. I needed someone incorruptible, with reach, with access. That's when I remembered Marcus Thompson, my childhood neighbor's older brother, now a detective in financial crimes, known in our community as the one cop who never sold out. We met at a 24-hour cafe off the highway. Marcus walked in plain clothes, but he still looked like a cop. Eyes checking exits. Hands free. Back to the wall. Jerome, well, he said, shaking my hand. Danny says you've got something big. Before we start, I need to be clear. If this is just about your conviction, I can't interfere. It's not about my conviction, I said. It's about who should have been convicted instead. For 2 hours, I showed him everything. Patterns, shell companies, fake invoices, public contracts with inflated costs. His face went from skeptical to concerned to angry. This isn't a little scheme, he finally said. This is a whole corruption machine. Richard's just the tip, I replied. Some city council members, maybe the mayor. They're all inside this. Marcus closed his notebook. How many people know about what you have? Just you and me. How do you still have these files? Blackstone said everything was wiped. I smiled for the first time in months, because I always backed up everything on external drives, twice. My dad's rule. He sat back thinking, Jerome, this could clear your name and blow up half the city. It could also get you killed. I know, I said, but I'm already living like a ghost. I'd rather die fighting than keep watching that man steal from children. Marcus didn't hesitate after that. He brought in people he trusted, Federal agents. The kind that don't smile when they say money laundering. We worked in secret, quietly, methodically. While the world thought I was just a disgraced ex-accountant delivering pizza. While we worked, Richard was busy doing what he does best. Performing. He gave an interview to the local paper. They called it, How to Spot Dishonest Employees. Lessons from the Wells case. He actually said, sometimes when you give someone from a humble background a chance, they just can't resist temptation. It's sad, but it's a lesson about character. I read that quote on my cracked phone screen while waiting for a bus. I didn't shake. I smiled, because he had no idea what was coming. That night, I called a different number. Not the office line, the internal emergency line he used for special transfers. One I only knew about from his own records. He answered, already annoyed. Who is this? It's me again, I said. Jerome. Silence. You really don't know when to quit, do you? He growled. Actually, I said, I'm just getting started. How's your account in the Cayman Islands doing? Another silence. Different this time. I don't know what you're talking about. Account number 4479-885-2391, I said. Bank International of Nassau. Current balance around 4.2 million. The air on the line changed. You're bluffing. Transaction of $340,000 on March 15th, 2023, I continued. Taken from an overbilled contract to renovate Roosevelt Elementary School. Was that the one where the roof still leaks? His breathing got heavier. What do you want? He finally asked. Nothing from you, I said. I just wanted you to know one thing. The game has changed. For 8 months, you've celebrated my destruction. But I documented every irregularity. You never bothered to learn what kind of man I really am. I hung up. For the first time since my conviction, I slept peacefully. Because now I knew I wasn't the one who should be afraid. There was still one problem. I had evidence. I had Marcus. I had the FBI. But in court, I was still the convicted criminal. Someone needed to see me, not my file. That's when the universe stepped in. One night, I was delivering pizza in an upscale neighborhood. I parked, grabbed the box, started walking.
And froze.
A black BMW. Same make, same model, same little scratch near the back wheel. My heart started pounding. I watched the house from across the street. 20 minutes later, she walked out. Same posture. Same way she carried her bag. Same quiet authority. She got into the BMW and drove away. My body moved before my brain did. I got back into my car and followed. Downtown. Turn after turn. She pulled into a parking space marked, Reserved, Hunnier Kendall Morrison, Superior Court Judge. I sat there in my beat-up car, uniform smelling like melted cheese and tomato sauce, watching the woman I had helped in the rain stride up the courthouse steps. The judge. The voice from that day. I leaned back and laughed. A tired, unbelieving laugh. Of course, I thought. Of course the universe would do it like this. She had seen me once in the dark, soaked, helping her when I didn't have to. She had seen me again in a courtroom, in the worst moment of my life. Now she was the bridge between those two versions of me. For the first time in months, I felt something dangerous. Hope. The next morning, Richard woke up to 14 missed calls from unknown numbers. By 9 a.m., his office was full of dark suits and badges. Mr. Blackstone, said Special Agent Torres, showing her ID, you are under arrest for federal tax fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy to embezzle public funds. The handcuffs clicked. Phones came out. Employees stared. The man who'd watched me get convicted for embezzling thousands was being marched out for stealing millions. 2 hours later, I was in an FBI interrogation room. But this time, I wasn't the suspect. I was the key witness, every shell company, every inflated invoice. On the other side of the one-way mirror, Richard watched with his lawyer. How did he get all this? Richard hissed. His lawyer flipped through the documents, paler with each page. Richard, this is devastating. They have every transfer, every offshore account, every false document you used against him. The irony tasted sweet. He had used fake documents to frame me for a small crime. I used real documents to expose him for a massive one. By afternoon, the news had exploded. Businessman arrested for multi-million-dollar embezzlement of public funds. Black employee framed for crime helps expose massive corruption scheme. The man who'd lectured about character in newspapers was now the poster boy for corporate hypocrisy. His bank accounts frozen. His company seized. His public image ruined. And I got a phone call. Mr. Wells, the voice was calm, controlled, familiar. This is Judge Kendall Morrison. I'd like to speak with you about your case, in person. We met in her office. No robes, no gavel. Just a woman at a desk. Seeing her in the light, dry, composed. I could still see the woman on the highway, soaked, scared, relieved when my help worked. She smiled softly. We finally meet. Properly, she said. You recognized me, I said quietly. From the road. From day one, she replied. And you recognized me too, didn't you? I nodded. Why didn't you say anything in court? I asked. She folded her hands. Because if you had mentioned it, I would have been required to recuse myself. Your case would have gone to another judge, and I wasn't sure another judge would look at the evidence as closely as I intended to. She slid a folder across the desk. Your conviction has been officially overturned, she said. The state is issuing a formal apology and financial compensation for wrongful imprisonment. My hands shook. I thought of Amelia, of every tear she'd seen me hide, of every bus ride, every pizza, every night on the floor with my puzzle. And Richard, I asked. Her mouth tightened. 22 years in federal prison, she said. No possibility of parole for the first 15. I let out a breath I didn't even know I'd been holding. She studied me for a moment. You know, Mr. Wells, most people would have driven past that night. My mother would have haunted me if I had, I said, smiling sadly. Sometimes, she said quietly, the world really does see who we are when we think no one's looking. 6 months later, I wasn't delivering pizza anymore. I was walking into a federal building wearing a suit and a badge. Director of Auditing, Federal Prosecutor's Office. My new job? Leading a task force against corporate corruption. My salary? 3 times what Blackstone used to pay me. Somewhere far away in a prison cell, Richard Blackstone woke up every day to a number instead of a title. His mansion sold to pay damages. His beach house gone. His friends? Very quiet. Turns out, in prison, no one cares how many millions you used to have. At my inauguration, Judge Morrison gave a short speech. Sometime, she said, justice takes time to find its way. But when it does, it's absolute. I looked down at the front row. Amelia sat there in her best dress, holding a handmade sign. My dad is a real hero. Next to her, Dona Esperanza cried openly. The woman who rented us a little room. Now watching me walk onto a stage I'd only ever seen on TV. I wasn't thinking about revenge anymore. I was thinking about that storm, about stopping when it was dangerous, about helping when it didn't benefit me. People say kindness is weakness. They're wrong. Kindness, backed by evidence and integrity, is dangerous to the right people. 3 years later, my case became required reading in business ethics classes. Students underline one sentence I said in an interview. A man of integrity with evidence is more. He fights for everyone who never got the chance. If this story touched you even a little, like this video, share it with someone who needs hope. And tell me in the comments, have you ever been punished for doing the right thing or afraid you would be? Sometimes stopping for a stranger in the rain isn't just helping them. It's planting the seed of your own salvation.